Welcome back to Goddess Garden Book Chat's reading adventure. We're now diving into book 7 of our journey, readers. I'm so glad that you came back. I'm so glad that you're here. This is such an exciting time in our book club because I don't know that I even imagined doing something this great. So I hope you're here for it, and I hope that you're enjoying this as much as I am. We're now diving into book 7 of our journey, Djèlí Clark's extraordinary novella, Ring Shout. But before we delve into this gripping blend of history and horror, let's take a moment to reflect on how far we've come. Our journey began with tales of mystery and intrigue, from navigating morally complex romances to uncovering secrets in fantastical realms. We've embraced diverse voices, explored uncharted territories of speculative fiction, and confronted both the light and shadow of humanity through the written word. Each book has enriched us, challenged us, and our perspectives, and our deepening love of storytelling. Or at least I feel that way. I know I have been challenged by both what I've read, how I've grown because of what I've read, and being able to share all of this is really exciting. Now, as we turn to Ring Shout, prepare yourselves for a tale that redefines history with a speculative twist. If you're returning, welcome back to the fold. Your insights and reflection have made this challenge all the more meaningful. For our newcomers, you're arriving at an exciting time. Strap in for a story that will linger in your mind for long after the last page turns. Let's get started.
All right, everyone, get ready for a deep dive. Today, we're going to be talking about Djèlí Clark's Ring Shout.
Ooh, I love this book.
Oh, have you read it?
I have. It's incredible. And we've got a great review of it here.
I'm already hooked just by the premise. Like, imagine, right, the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
But not as, like, the typical racist humans that we know.
Yeah.
Clark turns them into these, like, monstrous Lovecraftian creatures called Ku Kluxes.
It's so creative.
It's terrifying.
Right.
Just the concept alone, like, sends chills down my spine.
I know. It definitely grabs your attention. And what makes it even more fascinating is how Clark uses this, like, fantastical element to explore a very real and dark chapter of American history. He sets the story in the 1920s in Georgia,
Okay.
which was a time when the Klan was experiencing a resurgence. It was being fueled in part by that film, Birth of a Nation.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember learning about that film in history class.
Yeah.
Wasn't it incredibly racist and actually helped the Klan gain more influence?
Yeah, exactly. It was basically a piece of propaganda that glorified the Klan and distorted historical events to fit their narrative. And Clark cleverly draws a parallel between the film's power to manipulate and the Ku Kluxes in his story,
Okay.
who literally feed on hate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Remember that quote from the review?
Mm-hmm.
Hate, Marys, is a spell. And like all spells, it is fed by belief. Feed it enough, and it'll take root and grow.
It's such a powerful metaphor. And
Yeah.
it really drives home the point that hate isn't just some abstract feeling. Like, it can take on a life of its own and have very real, tangible consequences.
For sure.
And speaking of taking action, we have to talk about Mary's Boudreaux and her crew, Sadie and Chef. They sound like anything but your typical heroes, using this mix of magic and weaponry to take down these monstrous Ku Kluxes.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
What's so compelling about them is that their power is deeply rooted in their heritage. Mary's and her companions, they draw strength from Black folklore and spiritual traditions and the resilience of their ancestors. There's another quote from the review that stuck with me.
Oh, tell me, tell me.
We've got our own magic, a magic born out of the songs and stories and prayers of our people. That's the real power.
That gives me chills. It speaks to the enduring power of culture and community in the face of oppression. And the review mentions this traditional dance form, the ring shout, which becomes a central symbol in the story.
Yes.
I'm curious to learn more about its historical significance and how Clark elevates its meaning within this fight against the Ku Kluxes.
Well, the ring shout has really deep roots in African American history. It goes back to the days of slavery.
Hmm.
It was a way for enslaved people to express themselves, connect spiritually, and preserve their cultural heritage. It was often performed in secret, like under the cover of night, because it was seen as a threat to the slaveholders. But within those circles, it became a powerful form of resistance, like a way to maintain hope and community in the face of just unimaginable cruelty.
So it wasn't just about dancing, it was about survival, about holding on to your identity when everything was being stripped away.
Right.
That's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
And in Ring Shout, Clark takes that historical significance and weaves it into this fantastical battle against hate.
Exactly. He transforms the ring shout into a source of literal power for Maurice and her companions.
Okay.
As they dance, they tap into the energy of their ancestors, the collective strength, and use it to combat the Ku Kluxes. It's like a physical manifestation of their cultural resilience.
It's amazing how Clark layers these different meanings onto something so seemingly simple as a dance. At first I thought Chef was just there for comic relief or maybe as a motherly figure.
Mm-hmm.
But the review pointed out how vital her role is to the group's resistance. I'm really curious about that.
It's easy to overlook Chef because she's not out there slaying monsters with a sword like Maurice.
Right.
But her quiet strength is just as important. She's the one who nourishes the group both physically and emotionally.
It's like she's the heart of their resistance, providing that essential grounding amidst the chaos.
Think about it, in a world consumed by hate and violence, the act of creating and sharing food becomes a radical act of defiance. It represents life's sustenance and the continuation of tradition. Chefs' culinary skills become a powerful symbol of their refusal to be broken by the Ku Klux's reign of terror.
That makes me think about the different ways people contribute to a fight. It's not always about physical strength or magical powers. Sometimes it's about providing care, nourishment, and keeping the spirit of hope alive.
Exactly. And in Wing Shout, those everyday acts of resistance are just as important as the epic battles. It's about a community coming together to fight for their survival, and everyone plays a role.
This makes me want to reread the book and pay more attention to Chef and the symbolism behind her actions. Speaking of symbolism, we can't forget Mary Loss's sword, which is carved from a meteor. That detail always stuck with me. What's the significance of that?
That's where things get really interesting. The meteor, something that fell from the cosmos, hints at a connection to something beyond the earthly realm, perhaps even to ancestral powers.
So her strength isn't just her own. It's tied to something bigger, something ancient.
Precisely. And it raises questions about the source of Mary's power. Is it purely personal, or is she tapping into a lineage of strength and resilience that extends back generations?
That has a whole other layer to her character and her fight against the Ku Kluxes.
And it reinforces the idea that resistance to oppression is not a new concept. It's something that has been passed down through generations, woven into the very fabric of their culture.
I never thought about it that way, but it makes perfect sense. It's like the meteor sword represents that ancestral legacy, that unbroken chain of resistance.
Exactly. And by wielding that sword, Mary's becomes a symbol of that legacy, carrying the torch for her people and fighting for their liberation.
It's incredible how Clark blends like history and fantasy and social commentary to create such a powerful story.
It really makes you think, right? He doesn't shy away from, the horrors of the past, but he also offers this vision of hope and resistance, reminding us that even in the darkest of times, there's always the potential for change.
It makes you realize that we often only hear one side of the story, the dominant narrative. But Ring Shout encourages us to dig deeper, to seek out those untold stories and the perspectives that have been silenced for far too long.
It's true. And by doing so, we can gain a more complete understanding of our history and the complex forces that have shaped our world.
It's a reminder that history isn't just something that happened in the past. It's something that continues to impact us today,
Oh, absolutely. And Wing Shout shows us how we can use storytelling, even fantastical storytelling, to confront those historical traumas and challenge the systems of oppression that still exist.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today, exploring the historical context, the symbolism, the characters, and the powerful message of Ring Shout.
Yeah. It's a story that stays with you long after you finish reading it. It prompts you to think about, the nature of hate, the importance of heritage, and the different ways we can resist oppression.
I agree.
It's a powerful book.
Yeah. So for all you listeners out there, if you're looking for a book that will challenge your perspectives, ignite your imagination, and leave you feeling empowered, I highly recommend checking out Ring Shout.
Yes. And as you delve into this incredible work, here's something to ponder. How does Ring Shout, through its blend of historical fiction and fantasy, offer a fresh perspective on confronting historical trauma and systemic oppression?
That's a fantastic question to leave our listeners with. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Ring Shout. We hope it sparked your curiosity and a desire to explore this book and its themes further.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.
Pages turning slow on a quiet night, wrapped in stories of another land. In this world, everything feels right. Candles flicker with a gentle glow. In the silence, let my mind flow. Turn the page, lose my place, lose my place. And this story ends. Characters come to life in my mind, living tales that words design.